Hi, my name is Boris, and in this video I'm going to show you my top 10 absolutely free or pay what you want Max for Live devices. We'll explore mixing and sound design tools, cool sequencers, and even awesome visualizers. Before we get into the video, if you like what we are doing on this channel, make sure to subscribe. We've got more content about Ableton Live coming up. If you'd like to learn Ableton 12 with all the foundations of music production, check out our Beginner to Advanced Live 12 Start to Finish course, and make sure to also see the Everything Bundle Collector's Edition, which includes all of the courses, sound packs and project files in our store. And to check out all of that, see the video description. Alright, so let's jump in to the first Max for Live device for today. And if you're into modular synths, this device is definitely going to look familiar. So Flechtwerk is a Max for Live device that emulates the Mutable Instruments plates Eurorack module. It's a macro oscillator with multiple unique synthesis models. For this demo, I've chosen the string module, and I'm just playing a melody with some echo on it. Let's hear it. You can choose really way different types of sounds. You can also choose drum modules. There's a lot that can be done with this device. I'm not gonna go in depth, but for creative sound design, this is a really nice, cute, small emulation of the famous plates module. Okay, next up, this is a device that I really like, and it's basically a device randomizer. So you just drop it on any track, choose the track you want to focus on. For instance, this track is the first, and then you just focus in on a certain device. You can do this both for effects and for synths or any other Ableton instrument, or even if you have VST synths. Basically, you just select, for instance, we have this analog device. We just select analog and we are changing this patch with one click. We have a little bit of a demo. This is a completely randomly generated synth patch, and we just have some limiting and reverb on this sound. Quite random, but then we can always tweak everything. And what's cool about this is that you can actually lock some parameters that you don't want changed, because it is going to go into every single little menu and tweak every single parameter randomly. So I chose that I want to have the first oscillator on, so I just mapped the first oscillator to a macro, and I just basically have it all the way up, so I make sure it's on. And so the randomizer is focusing not on the rack itself, but on the device inside, meaning it will try to change everything, and it won't be able to modify whatever we have mapped to the macros. So this way we can get slightly more usable sounds. So let's hit randomize here a few times by just clicking this exclamation mark and see if we can come up with anything useful. So one thing I noticed is that we get this pitch envelope initial, and also same happens over here. We can set that to 0 so we don't get the pinch envelope. Let's hit randomize again. Okay, so this sounds somewhat usable. Maybe we can just change the semitones controls. Maybe also let's tweak the detune. If I capture this MIDI that I've just played, maybe let's just chop this section, and I'm going to just quantize the notes. So we've created a nice ARP this way. Let's try experimenting even more. Okay, so I am doing the same technique as with the last one. Let's crop to this selection, quantize the notes, and let's play and mess around with some settings. Okay, so after clicking randomize enough times, you will find something that you can essentially tweak and just come up with a patch that has a lot of quirks and little things you wouldn't usually do that would require a lot of clicking. And you just get started from this crazy patch and you kind of have to tame and control all this craziness that's going on. So I really like the randomizer. Next up, we have a drum synth. And this one is called Visage. It's a 4-track FM drum synth. It's supposed to be like a cold metallic drum synth, and it's got also some built-in effects. So let's just give this a really quick preview. So we can sequence the notes with Ableton's MIDI clips, but we can also just use the built-in sequencer. And that's really fun. So to get started with making a drum pattern, here for example we have the hi-hat. And you can easily just add and remove notes like this. You can add some random pattern easily. And then maybe we can add also a kick drum. And then we have a snare. Here we have send effects, so we can choose how much reverb we want. And we also have delay. And the last sound is the FM module, which sounds like this. This can be used, for example, for toms. So if we enable the kick, and maybe let's go with a 4 to the floor kind of pattern. I can see this being incredibly useful, especially in techno, but also IDM and many different types of music that require industrial, cold-sounding drum sounds. And there's quite a lot that can be done sound design-wise, but also, for example, on the hats, there's a lot of nice features. So make sure to experiment here. Okay, so the next device is Duck Buddy, which is basically ducking or sidechain type of device, and it allows you to have it sort of sidechained to a MIDI track. So instead of the audio triggering your sidechain, you basically can trigger it with MIDI, which can be much more precise because you're not relying on the audio levels and things like that. So here we have a patch in analog. And here we have just a kick drum played with the Ableton drum synths, which are Max for Live devices, in fact. We can just use the Duck Buddy, select a curve, for instance, a curve like this, and we can just map it to our DS kick track. And now it's going to duck whenever we are playing the kick drum. And it's very, very simple, but you can easily just draw in different shapes. You can also hold Alt or Option and just drag the curves. And there's even an in-depth view, which you can expand by clicking this plus button. And as you can see, we get a representation of the audio coming through plugin, which is great and allows us to be really precise, really fine-tune our sidechain. So Duck Buddy is really great in my opinion. Let's continue with some MIDI editing tools. Here on this track we just have a simple 909 open hat. And we have velocity mapped to the decay. So if we increase the velocity of our notes, it's going to have a higher decay. And it's also going to have a shorter decay when we lower the velocity. Of course, it also applies to volume. But what I wanted to do is to show you a nice Max for Live MIDI transformation tool, which is called Dynamics, and it allows you to just add a bit of variation to your hi-hats. For instance, let's say we wanted to add variation to this really stable velocity. So we can just go to Dynamics and go to Transform. And now you can see that some of the notes have a lower velocity. If we now tweak the velocity knob, we can choose whether we want them to be higher, so positive values, or negative values. And here you can choose to do that in percentages. So we can also choose how many steps we want. So this is going to allow us to have the velocities more varied. And also we have the dry wet control, which allows us to choose how much of this effect we want. Let's just try to tweak this and hear what happens. Okay, I really like the end result here, and you can also easily go to reroll, and this is going to do this transformation once again, because then if we just keep on clicking transform, it's just going to apply that once again onto our pattern. So we need to go to reroll to get another random sequence. So that's dynamics. Also, I wanted to show you now a generative tool. In Ableton 12, you can now add your own custom Max for Live MIDI generators. And this one is made for creating complete house drum patterns. So we have a 909 core drum kit. And we have no MIDI right now. I am just choosing the kick, clap, snare, closed and open hats, and clicking generate. And let's hear it. And I'm going to generate once again. And maybe once again. So maybe we can just remove the closed hats at the open hats position. Beautiful. And then maybe we can generate a few more times. And as you can see, it generates these open hats in the correct position. And we also got a nice drum fill. You can also add 2 percussion sounds and a perk group, which I believe is supposed to be toms, which you can choke here. So density controls how many of these notes you want. Also settings like density and bounce, this all influences the end result. So you get the idea. It's a really fun way of generating house drum patterns. In minutes, you can get tens or even more house drum patterns to then choose from and tweak even further. The name is quite tricky. It's SRMDB002. Okay, so now let's take a look at sequencers. So first of all, we have a free version of a Max for Live device called the Drummer. Looks like this, so a bit more complex. We have the 808 core kit loaded up, and let's just give this a quick listen. As you can see, as a simple step sequencer with a few nice channels, but what's great about it is that you can randomize these steps really easily. So you can just click on this button right here. Let's maybe now try to lock the percussion sound, and maybe let's also lock the bass drum, and now it's just going to randomize all the other tracks. Yeah, so you can play around with randomization here. You can lock these different tracks whenever you like them and just keep randomizing other tracks. And finally, you can always record this MIDI onto a new track. So you can just choose the drummer over here. And voila, we have it. And we can just continue editing from here. So another sequencer I wanted to show today is the ProperStep. So here we have a sort of 303 patch in analog. So I'm gonna click clear all, and let me show you how this works. Basically, you just enable step record and you can just play in, without worrying about the timing, any number of notes that you want. We have the number of steps set to 16. So let's just play in 16 notes. And now let's just play it. You can also change steps. So for example, you can clear the first step, override it with something, and now it's going to play like this. You can also change the amount of steps. And you can also add swing, and you can even preview a certain note. So this can create a 303 style workflow. It's also, this kind of sequencer is also present in many other Roland synths like the SH101. You can basically input random notes and create a weird pattern without having to worry about playing in time. And then of course you can just choose MIDI from ProperStep, record this pattern. So let me now jump over to another project and show you a visualizer. Okay, so this device is called Geometrum, and it generates random geometric patterns which are spread on sort of a 2D canvas, which is rotating at the same time, which gives it a really nice 3D impression. So let me just give you a quick demo. Here's one of our project files, and I'm just going to play a fragment with this visualizer. I'm going to extend it and then maybe go into full screen mode. So here's how I set this up. Basically in Geometrum you can choose the colors, but you can also just choose white here with these buttons. Then you of course have to enable render. I have chosen the map on and change on features, but I have some features mapped here to the macros too. So the most important control in my opinion is the alteration. And in my understanding, this just controls how much this shape responds to the audio. And then you can also choose how fast this shape is going to change into something else. So if we have 8N enabled, it changes shapes all the time, really. You also have 3 modes, which are worth experimenting with. The second mode really is responsive. Even if we go to half of alteration, it still is really responsive. Maybe let's go to 0.1. Yeah, so this just gives you a much more shaky view. Okay, so basically there are these 2 shapes that get combined and you can choose between different types of shapes. You could also, in fact, just map these shape types separate macros. You could disable changing the shape and just change our shapes manually. Let's change alteration to 2. So this way you can sort of do a bit of VJing, just maybe go full screen and map it to a MIDI controller with knobs or faders and have fun. And one important thing that I have set up here is basically I have an audio effect track. One chain is just a dry chain where I get the audio of the track. And another is the visuals track, and I'm just limiting this frequency spectrum to the bass, because I just want the kick and bass to be triggering our visualizer. I don't want the busy hi-hats to be triggering it. And it's really easy to make it look a bit shaky and weird if you just let all the frequencies through. But I have this track fully muted because we're just doing this EQ for the purpose of the visualizer. Okay, let's move on to another visualizer. Okay, so this visualizer is called Vizzable. So let me just give you a quick preview of what this looks like. So Vizzable is a set of Max for Live devices which respond to audio or can play video clips. And then from all of these devices across your project, you can combine these in a mixer. Here we just have a scope, which is this sort of waveform that goes from right to left. And you also have this Gantt graph, which are all these abstract geometric shapes. So how this works is you basically set up your audio track. Similarly, I also just chose the low frequencies here to trigger our visualizer. I'm also doing a bit of transient shaping with the drum bus. And let's skip the LFOs for now. I'm just using the scope device and the Gantt graph device. And in the scope device, I'm choosing points as the type of visualization. So maybe let's just mute the Gantt graph. So I'm just left with the scope. We've got different types of scopes, and then we also have different shapes in our Gantt graph device. I have mapped the shape and the draw mode to two macros, which then I am modulating with two LFOs, both of which basically have really low rates. So the shapes are going to change in time as if someone were controlling these, but they are slow enough so that we can actually focus on something. We also have this LFO, which is mapped to X, which is basically rotation of the 3D element. If we just tweak that, we can just get a different position and it rotates along the X-axis. So let's give that once again a really quick sound preview. And in my opinion, Vizzable has some problems and it's not really stable. But if you'd like to experiment and just add a bit more stable visualizer, which is geometric and evolves, you can get the Gantt graph device, this one, as basically a standalone Max for Live device. Then you just get a window that pops up and you're ready to go. And there's much more that can be done with Vizzable. You can feed your webcam or your video clips, and there's a lot that can be done, but this is just a start. And if you're looking to create visualizers, this can be a start and you can experiment like I did here with the LFOs. All right, I hope you found this video useful. Make sure to check out our Music Production Academy with lots of start to finish courses on making tracks in various genres. And if you'd like to learn Ableton 12 with all the foundations of music production, check out the Beginner to Advanced Live 12 Start to Finish course. Make sure to also check out the Everything Bundle Collector's Edition, which includes all of the courses, sound packs and project files in our store, and the links to all of that as well as to today's devices you'll find in the video description. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. If you enjoyed this video, leave it a like, write us a comment, and I will see you in the next ones.